And that brings us to our next question, which Henry strangely said was controversial.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's it. Now that all of you are living in L.A., who is the most L.A.?
Henry. You like it.
Yeah, I like it.
So I like it as well.
People grow more accustomed to it.
I think, you're the most LA because
I got a convertible.
But you you also enjoy more of because you're an actor.
Yes, I do.
And we could all act. It's a skill.
Yeah.
I like Mexican food. I like the weather.
We like that.
I like the weed.
Yes.
Like that's all these are things I like.
That's all very LA stuff.
Yeah.
At some point, you would like to perhaps have a major motion picture role.
Of course.
So this is the place to be.
Not anymore, but it used to be.
You wear shorts all the time?
I do.
Love shorts.
Yeah.
However, I have made a large amount of since moving here, a large amount of my wardrobe is now hemp.
Yeah, he loves hemp.
I love hemp. I'm wearing a hemp shirt right
Feel
now.
it.
100% hemp.
That doesn't make him more LA. That definitely seems like more of what a Texan would do if they moved to LA.
Well, it does put him more into the. I think there's something separate between Texas and LA. It's a Subaru
vibe.
Yes, it's way more of a Subaru vibe.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I will say, every place is what you make it. So Los Angeles, I think, if you're in the arts, you got to start in New York.
Yes, I do believe that. This is not a place to struggle.
No. You got to start in New York because at this point, I think you got to Queens. Wherever poor and artistic people are, you go there, you make all your friends
But now
there.
they got cooler scenes in other cities. It's not just New York anymore.
True.
Atlanta's got a great scene for music and comedy.
But there is
Detroit.
I will say, though, there is something about suffering in New York.
Oh, it makes you better.
Because everyone's suffering there with you.
Yes.
And you're sweating and you're running.
It's great for art.
Yes,
it is great. That pressure and that anger and the pace, it is fantastic for art. You got to keep up. And New York is also a place where it's, weirdly, it's kind of more merit-based, especially in the arts world.
A little bit.
It's way more like New York comedians are uglier and better. LA comedians are handsomer and more successful, but they are not as good. That is
Not
just
as
straight
funny.
across.
Yeah,
that's across the
true.
board.
I'll agree with that 100%.
There's something about just cutting your teeth and walking. The great thing about New York, whether you're a billionaire, a millionaire, or just making, whatever, pierogies in a kitchen, you walk by the same pothole. You walk by the
Everybody's in the same
everyone's
basket.
together.
Yeah.
And you learn so much about life and your ability to survive.
I agree.
Yeah. And the one thing about LA that I've been here almost a year now, and don't get me wrong, I fucking love it.
I'm enjoying it.
I like the weather a lot more than I thought I would.
Yeah.
But it's just nothing can hold a candle to the food in New York.
New York is different. You can't. It's like comparing things to Rome and shit. New York's the best food in the country.
I can't let go of it. I think about it every day.
That's just the
I
truth.
would actually push back a little bit. I'd say I actually think Chicago is.
Well, you're in your vein.
Well, that's your taste.
My real choice is New Orleans. It's got the best food in the country.
Oh, yeah. New
In terms of restaurants, New Orleans still got it.
But in terms of just fucking eating, like
York.
I just need to eat. As a person who just needs to eat, that's great.
Except for tacos, taco culture and Mexican food culture in general in LA.
Far better.
That's just
far better.
That's
But I
just
can't live on Mexican food.
But yeah, so
right,
Marcus,
here I got one.
least LA, Ben, middle LA, and Henry, most LA.
Okay, here we go. Here's a more serious one. How do you stay grounded while consuming firsthand information about all these conspiracy theories? And what advice would you give to anyone who wants to go down the University of YouTube hole without falling prey to the radicalization algorithm? Now, I will say I was taught a thing in high school, right, about this idea of cognitive dissonance and how you're supposed to how you can hold two ideas in your head at the same time. What I like to do, which is kind of in the Robert Anton Wilson school of what he called like across the board agnosticism, right? I don't believe in anything too much.
Sure.
I dabble. I go back and forth. I like to, when I read in Conspiracy Minds, like a view in like whatever you'd call my fucking process, right? It's that I try to imagine how that person views the world from inside their eyeballs and what their frame of references is and why they think that way and what it is that they're saying. Because a lot of those guys, especially conspiracy world, it's in code. There's a lot of weird shit. And then kind of see how.
By the way, Jew is
a
code
big
for
code.
Jew.
But I just don't hold on to anything too, like, I see ideas for what they are.
It sounds to me like you hold on loosely.
And I don't let go.
Don't let go. I agree with that.
Where you can read these things. It does not mean that it is real. And then also, for part of you understanding that it is an algorithm that you within your own behavior is curating is extremely important for you to understand about this, what I'd call like internet literacy.
My algorithm, by the way, just got me with a bunch of cow lovers. My algorithm was just a bunch of like
touching cows.
In the arms of the angels, but with cows.
Yeah.
I also don't believe that any idea should be like no idea is like a throwaway idea or destroyable idea.
Yeah.
I think that there are things, obviously, except for like extreme fascist thought, but it's more like, what can we learn from that thought?
Sure.
What can you learn? And I talked about this on Sirius Radio recently with the Maui wildfires. So you can hold multiple things, as Henry said, to be true. So there was a conspiracy that they were started on purpose because the billionaires want to buy up that land. They want to make Maui a smart city. All of that is completely true. And then a couple of different things came out because China does have a space laser, and they showed these two photos. One was of what appeared to be a laser, and another one appeared to be a laser. They're both from 2018.
Yes.
One is a SpaceX rocket. The other one's a fire in Ohio.
Yeah, so they're
they're
making shit up in one way.
But the thing is, you don't want to have the spurious correlation between just because people will benefit off the suffering
doesn't mean
they caused it.
Well, it's not the plan.
That's the same thing with New Orleans. The idea that, real estate developers blew up the levees.
It's same thing with the World Trade Center.
No, but
however, the sad reality is, cui bono, people will benefit from
Yes,
the
absolutely.
That's just people taking advantage of a crisis.
And that's just also conspiracy theory, I find, as a whole, where we talk about, what you can often be attributed to malice. A lot of times you can attribute to incompetency.
Yeah.
Where it's like, most of the time, these guys are improving as they go, just like any human is. And they just are wired in a way to look for benefits in bad situations. And that's what they do. They analyze these things. That's how they become billionaires. You don't become a billionaire without the suffering of thousands of people.
Yeah.
Yes. So, of course, you have to hold those things to be true, but it doesn't mean you want to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah, I mean, I live by pretty much three principles when it comes to this whole conspiracy thought thing. The biggest one is, of course, never attribute to malice that which can be explained by either incompetence or stupidity. That's one of them. That's the main one. Yep. Second one is Occam's razor, which is the simplest explanation is usually the right explanation. And three, using if-then logic. Using if-then logic is one of the most important tools you can have when you look at, say, a huge conspiracy. Look at Pizzagate. You look at if-then. If this thing is true, then this other thing has to happen.
For as far as I'm concerned, if another country has such a superior military technology to ours, it would not be a secret. Yeah. It would be a very, very public thing. Like, that's why I feel like, because they're going to show and they're going to flex. They've spent billions of dollars making this thing.
You see that space laser?
But look at what we did. We did it with the atomic bomb, and it's no different than anybody else. So I think that's when you get into this idea of like, oh, these other countries have stuff that we don't have. They'd be using them.
Yeah. Well,
I think we got the most. We got the best.
We do have the best. But
that's what I'm saying.
Always think about if-then, because it's also, that's kind of an OCD exercise as well, where you just keep going, and then what would happen, and then what would happen. You just have to keep going through and like looking at how massive of an apparatus these huge conspiracies would need to hide in plain sight in order for them to work, and it just doesn't make any sense. Most of the time, it makes zero sense whatsoever.
And it's not sexy, right?
No.
I think the audience, especially on the internet, you kind of want the sexy answer of it being one side or the other. You guys, I do understand that there's a constant need, and obviously, in like being central is such a dirty word on the internet these days. But it's important to understand the majority of humankind, even the evil ones, are center.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. They have different things. What they do back and forth. Like they react to things in specific idiosyncratic ways. They are still humans.
Self-preservation.
But they are still operating within a paradigm. So
And with conspiracy theories, you can always check to see sources. You can always see you can do a trust but verify thing, but you can also look and see okay, what sources do these people cite? Do they say
sources say?
Do they say I've heard? A lot of times you'll see
I read this one thing.
Yeah, I read this one thing, and the biggest tell is when you see these people sourcing each other.
Yes,
that's happened a ton in Q.
That's all you're hearing is because they're saying the truth in a way by being like, well, I've heard people say, because they're hearing the same people say the same same thing about the same
Yeah,
shit.
and they just keep quoting each other and they keep building upon each other. So always watch out for that. That's the massive red flag.
I've watched conspiracy theories about me form in front of my own eyes on the internet, and I have a unique view because
of the most nefarious conspiracy theories about me. Bud Light Lime.
It worked. That's called magic, and it's and you should lean in for the advertising fucking additions to that.
Yes.